What if Anakin Skywalker started a superhero order during the Clone Wars? Let's explore the depths of it in the video. Anakin leans forward in his hospital bed, still recovering from his injuries during Boba Fett's sabotage of the Endurance. The medical droid says it will be several more days until he's ready to be discharged. Until then, there isn't much he can do but think. There's a lot on his mind, and he recalls all his recent adventures. From Cad Bane stealing a Jedi holocron, to their crash landing on Felucia, and now their encounter with Boba Fett. All of this has shown him just how dangerous the galaxy truly is. He used to think the Jedi and Sith were the most dangerous beings in the galaxy, but these other beings are giving him second thoughts. From these bounty hunters, there are shape-changers, regenerating trandoshans, and more. It seems like most of them are against the Republic, but as Anakin lies in his bed, he begins to think of ideas, of how these beings could be a force for good if properly led. Suddenly, Anakin calls for a datapad to write everything down. Once he recovers, the first thing Anakin does is present his thesis to the Jedi Council. Unfortunately, he finds only skepticism and mistrust at his proposal to recruit bounty hunters and criminals and promise them amnesty in exchange for service to the Republic. Most see it as madness, except Master Plo and Eth Koth, who consider the possibilities. However, when rumors reach Palpatine, he is far more open to the idea. He allows Anakin to take a few from prison, or hire them. However, he warns that due to the nature of this task, he cannot provide any legal protection. If something happens to them, they are on their own. Anakin immediately begins going through his recruits and finds the first group. From prison, he recruits Bosk and Cato Parasiti. Anakin also hires his friends from Felucia, Sugi, Serapis, and Embo, along with the Parowan bounty hunter, Daron. With these 6, they are escorted to an abandoned Republic planet based in a remote system where Anakin, Ahsoka, Plo, and Eth Koth all meet them.
Greetings. You are all gathered here today because the Jedi need your unique abilities.
Since when did Jedi hire bounty hunters?
As far as I remember, you're not a bounty hunter anymore. You're an inmate. One who is about to have the opportunity of a lifetime.
Indeed. For those of you who recently found themselves in prison, this may be your chance to get out of there. And for those of you who didn't, our organization is prepared to compensate you for your help in our little experiment.
And what exactly is this experiment of yours, Jedi?
Recent events have shown me that the Jedi are not enough to fight this war. We will need something else. A group willing to break the rules to get the job done. And I've selected you because you're among the best bounty hunters in the galaxy. Ones that possess unique abilities. Abilities that I believe can be enhanced with the right training.
A few mutter amongst themselves and lean closer to hear this. The mention of not a pardon, but also training gets their attention. Anakin notices this and smiles to himself.
Yes, you heard me right. I believe that with the training of the Jedi, we might be able to amplify their abilities. However, I'm not naive either. I understand that all of you might have your motives for joining this group, and that is why I also have these ready.
He gestures towards Ahsoka, who holds a set of specialized shock collars. Although it doesn't sit too well with Anakin to use such things, he understands that precautions must be made, especially with this group.
These collars are set to shock you should you disobey orders or try to go rogue. They will remain around your necks until I deem you ready to be released. So no, the collars won't come off even if you complete your mission. The purpose of this training is to lift non-force sensitives, not just create better fighters. Knowing that, I will allow anyone who doesn't wish to continue to leave now.
He glances back and forth at the gathered bounty hunters. Behind him, Plo and Eth ready their weapons in case someone tries anything. But slowly, Sugi puts the collar around her neck, as does Daron. All 6 of them then place them on, and Anakin smiles.
Well, I guess this is where the real work begins.
This new order makes use of a series of abandoned Republic bases as their headquarters, moving from place to place depending on where they are needed. True to his word, Anakin and the other Jedi begin spending their time training the recruits. Although they are not Force-sensitive, the Force resides in all beings, and they work on trying to channel it into them. They spend many days working on breathing exercises, meditation, and techniques to let the energy flow through them. With this group, these techniques become more critical as they wish to teach the bounty hunters patience and restraint, as well as how to channel their abilities. Sometimes the Jedi even use sensory deprivation to teach them to trust in the Force. None of the recruits can ever reach and use the Force to manipulate objects around them, but they might be able to use the midichlorians within themselves. Plo works with Bossk, Daron, and Cato, as all three have natural abilities where they can focus their energy. For Bossk, this comes with regeneration. Daron can generate electricity, and Cato in shapeshifting. Plo focuses on teaching them patience, harnessing the energy within themselves, and channeling it into single actions or locations. Meanwhile, the others do not have such abilities. Instead, Eth Koth focuses on teaching them how the Force can aid their senses, to focus on hearing and sight, or to deal with pain and strengthen themselves in attacks. Anakin sees more practical training. Along with Ahsoka, he creates training methods that put their skills to the test and let them apply these abilities. It is bitter work, and Anakin pushes them to their limits, constantly challenging them and forcing them to adapt to new techniques. Ahsoka herself is a fierce component. As though young, she knows Anakin's training methods more than anyone, allowing her to add surprise into the mix. From sudden attacks to well-placed traps that teach them to expect the unexpected. However, they are still in a war, and these soldiers become needed on the front. Palpatine secretly contacts Anakin and orders him to begin deploying his new order. Instead of taking them to the front lines, he instead uses them in covert missions. This order will not be generals, but lawmen meant to restore order. They are deployed behind enemy lines to sabotage fortifications, eliminate commanders, and fight proxy wars against the CIS. These are things that the Jedi Order might find questionable, but Anakin's order is ready to handle the job. Here, the bounty hunters prove themselves highly competent. Their training shows itself as they manage to accomplish the most difficult missions. While not nearly as powerful as Jedi in terms of raw power, the training Anakin and the others put them through gives them a much-needed boost. Their fighting abilities and endurance are well above what can be expected from regular soldiers, allowing them to do serious damage to the CIS forces they encounter. Meanwhile, enhanced senses and natural abilities allow them to infiltrate facilities and disable traps with remarkable ease. Bossk becomes a master hunter on the battlefield, able to ambush any foe while his regenerative powers can put him back into a fight mere minutes after being injured. Daron, meanwhile, can expertly hack through security systems, pass through ray shields, and overload systems. Cato can infiltrate enemy bases without ever being detected. The rest remain incredibly competent as fierce fighters, but their greatest contribution is their perspective. For the Jedi, bound by a strict code, certain actions are unthinkable, but for bounty hunters on the streets, they can see things in ways Jedi can't. For one, many of them work on both sides, so they have valuable knowledge of members of the CIS. But aside from the CIS, they also understand the people and the underworld, providing insights that the Jedi struggle to get themselves. This helps Anakin and the others learn one crucial lesson. This isn't simply a war between the Republic and the CIS. Across 1,000 worlds, both sides are using proxies and puppets to wage their wars. They take advantage of bad blood, ancient feuds, and rivalries to gain allies. Many of these people do not care whether it is the CIS or the Republic who rules them, and are more concerned with settling scores. If they want to win the war, they will have to deal with these problems. Slowly, Anakin begins to shift the focus of his order. While he continues to help Palpatine with some missions, they now also work to help the people. They travel to areas most affected by these issues in the Outer Rim, finding entire planets overrun with warlords, pirates, and extremist groups with their agendas and goals. Here, Anakin sends them out to begin cleaning these areas. With the war going on, the Jedi can no longer police these areas, allowing Anakin's group to take over. Many of these missions do not necessarily benefit war efforts. Some of the same groups they fight are allied with the Republic, but they undoubtedly benefit the people. Crime is dealt with, issues are addressed, and the people feel safe. For the first time, it feels as though their plight is being heard by someone. Rather than be called bounty hunters, they are starting to be called heroes by these people. The success attracts more people. Champions and volunteers from the planets offer their services and ask to be trained as well. Even a few former Jedi join in and serve as trainers. This organization gains the respect of the people due to its openness and egalitarian culture amongst them. But with this success and change comes conflict, not just from the CIS, but also from the Republic and the Jedi. Rather than strictly work with the Republic, Anakin's order follows its own path, making its headquarters in the Outer Rim so it will be less influenced by politics. However, the Senate sees this as defiance and wishes for them to either disband or submit to their authority. The Jedi are equally displeased as they see these efforts as vigilantism, which only brings more chaos in the long run. Even the Chancellor is displeased at having Anakin subvert his organization's strategy to work against the Republic. But none of this deters Anakin, who decides that helping those in need is more important. They have their work cut out for them too, as they soon encounter trouble with a rising criminal empire of Darth Maul. The former Sith Lord begins gathering allies in the criminal underworld, turning the multiple major crime families into a single organization with the same connections as Anakin's force. This makes them natural enemies of Anakin's heroes, who try to oppose his rise at every turn. They battle the Black Sun, Pikes, and Hutts across a dozen systems, raiding their ships and ambushing their forces. However, while things go well, Maul is not an opponent they have ever seen. He doesn't underestimate them and continues to put pressure on them. He sends out criminals to face them, battling them with the same ferocity. But the difference is Maul has far more resources to call upon, while Anakin can no longer rely on help from the Republic or Jedi. The only ally they do find is Obi-Wan, who has his own reasons for opposing Maul. He offers to lead a strike team to try and eliminate him. Anakin provides him with a small strike team consisting of Bossk, Cato, and several others. But rather than face them alone, the bounty hunters make contact with the Mandalorian resistance. Soon after, these rebels launch a full-scale attack on Sundari. Blaster fire rains down from above as Mandalorian fighters streak across the sky of the capital of Mandalore. The dome shudders with each explosion. The Death Watch and their criminal allies scramble to counter this offensive. But as they hurry out, a small group moves through the alleyways led by Obi-Wan. Bossk, Cato Parasiti, and 3 other mercenaries creep behind him. Their movements are quick but careful, darting between columns and through the shadows.
The Mandalorians are giving us a hell of a distraction, but it won't last long. Those Death Watch dogs will turn on us if we screw this up.
They'll do their part. We just have to do ours. Cato.
The shapeshifter nods and touches one of the guards they had killed and kneels, her form changing. She walks through the streets, her blaster pointed at her comrades to pose as their captor. With the chaos happening, no one seriously questions them, and they make their way over to the balance. Occasionally, Cato will move on ahead to scout the area before signaling to them. As they approach the palace, she finds it empty and frowns. Something doesn't feel right, but it's too late as the others approach. Suddenly, the silence breaks as a pair of figures leap out. Maul and Savage.
Kenobi, you Jedi always had a habit of showing up uninvited.
Surrender, Maul. This doesn't have to end in bloodshed.
A tempting offer, but I would rather it does.
Without warning, Maul leaps forward, spinning his double-bladed lightsaber in a blur of red light. Savage charges alongside him, his raw strength shaking the ground with each step. Obi-Wan raises his blade to meet Maul's. Bossk roars and rushes at Savage, firing his blaster. The big warrior is surprisingly fast and deflects each one. Cato leaps over his swing and cuts down one of the mercenaries. She scores a shot at his back, but his armor absorbs the attack. When Savage turns to block another, Bossk leaps onto his back and begins to pummel Savage. Cato lowers her rifle bayonet and rushes at him, but Savage manages to kick it aside and shoves her against the pillar. Meanwhile, Maul and Obi-Wan continue to duel. The Night Brother's face twists into a feral snarl as he makes a series of sweeping strikes toward Obi-Wan, his saber staff giving him excellent reach and forcing the Jedi on the defensive. He twists and pivots to try and avoid each blow. As he swings, Obi-Wan ducks low and slashes across his ankle. The blow sends Maul to one knee, and his leg sparks, but it doesn't fully sever it. So when Obi-Wan rushes at him again, he kicks him aside and sends him skittering across the ground. But as Obi-Wan looks, he can see the battle is going poorly. Bossk is continuing to fight against Savage, even as his limbs are still half regenerated, while Cato takes potshots at him. Their remaining 2 mercenaries, though, struggle to hold back a group of Mandalorian warriors.
You've lost, Kenobi.
He rushes at the Sith Lord once again, his lightsaber flashing as he rains down attacks on Maul. The aggression takes him off guard, but he defends himself expertly, blocking each attack and sensing the desperation behind his smiles. Behind him, Bossk lunges at Savage with his claws, but the hulking warrior grabs him by the throat and slams him into the ground with a sickening crunch. Obi-Wan ignores those sounds and continues to attack, his lightsaber looking for an opening and tries to close in. But Maul is too fast and blocks those attacks. Maul smiles as he feels his hatred overflowing, starting to fuel him, and then lets his attacks grow more precise as a quick jab catches him off guard, and Maul's kick sends him sprawling to the floor. But a sound draws his attention as he sees the 2 Savages battling. One of them manages to kick the other to the ground and moves towards Maul.
The shapeshifter. It tried to ambush me.
Maul smirks and drives his lightsaber into his chest. Cato gasps as her disguise fails, and she stares at Maul in surprise.
Did you think I wouldn't recognize my brother?
The real Savage rises to his feet and begins to strangle Obi-Wan, but Maul rests a hand on his forearm and shakes his head.
Brother, alive. He'll be useful.
The rest of the counterattack is beaten back, leaving Maul in control of Mandalore. Many expect him to press his attack, but to everyone's surprise, he doesn't. Instead, he offers terms to Anakin, Obi-Wan's life in exchange for him controlling Mandalore. Unsurprisingly, Obi-Wan urges Anakin to reject this offer before having his guards take him away. Once they are alone, Maul smiles.
You know these negotiations benefit me more than you. The longer you remain here, the less time you have out there to go after the real criminals.
And you aren't one of the real criminals? You run the largest crime syndicate out there.
Second, but I am the apprentice. My master is the true power. I believe Obi-Wan has mentioned it. Darth Sidious. Curious, are you? Well, allow me to sweeten the deal. Give me Mandalore, and I shall give you Sidious.
Like I believe a word that comes out of you.
Oh, I have every reason to help you. My master does not appreciate me being alive. By taking care of him, you will be protecting me, like the good hero you are.
I should finish the job for him.
Now that isn't very heroic. Isn't your job to defend those who cannot protect themselves?
And how is letting Mandalore fall to you helping?
Did you truly consider this plan? Do you think that Bo-Katan and her faction would do anything different? They would gladly rearm Mandalore if given the chance. They are simply angry that I am in charge and not them. Now, do we have a deal?
Anakin glares at him. He wants to swat his hand away and shut off the communication, and yet he can't. Maul didn't say anything that wasn't true. He hesitates and then nods his head. Maul smiles and promises to send Obi-Wan over. But first, he leans closer and whispers the name. The bustling Senate chamber falls silent as the holoprojectors broadcast a live announcement. The battered ship carrying Anakin Skywalker and his band of heroes descends onto the Republic's main landing pad. They announce that with the war raging, they are now ready to serve the Republic. Anakin steps forward and is escorted by Ahsoka Tano, Obi-Wan, Daron, Sugi, Embo, Plo Koon, Serapis, and Eth Koth. Behind them, their other heroes and champions stand ready.
As many of you suspected, I am here to submit myself to the authority of the Republic and its people.
A wave of gasps and murmurs ripples through the crowd. Chancellor Palpatine, standing at the forefront with his hands clasped before him.
Ah, my dear boy. We welcome you home. Your courage, though misguided, has always been admired.
I wish to speak with you. Privately.
Of course, we have much to discuss.
But as they disappear into Palpatine's private office, this leaves Ahsoka and the heroes surrounded by a large force of clones and Jedi who watch them warily.
Well, Anakin, I must say, your return is both surprising and welcome. Tell me, what has prompted this submission? Surely you trust me to guide you.
You misunderstand, Chancellor. I am not submitting to you.
Anakin, why this sudden distrust? After everything we've done together.
You can drop the act, Sidious. Maul told me everything.
That madman? Surely you must see that he is trying to turn you against me. Against the Republic.
Don't play coy with me. Maul told me. He told me everything. You're the Sith Lord behind all of this. The war. And now, you'll answer for it.
For a moment, silence reigns. Then Palpatine chuckles, a low, menacing sound that sends shivers down Anakin's spine. He rises slowly, his once friendly demeanor replaced by something far darker.
You're smarter than I gave you credit for. I must say, I'm very impressed. Not even the Jedi came close to discovering the truth. Yes, I am Darth Sidious, and I have orchestrated this galaxy's rebirth. But that does not mean we cannot be allies. We share a common goal, the eradication of crime and chaos here. Together, with your new army, we can accomplish that.
I will never kneel to a Sith Lord.
So clever, and yet so naive, blinded by the Jedi dogma.
The Sith Lord unleashes a torrent of Force lightning, which Anakin deflects with his lightsaber. The two circle one another as Palpatine's lightsaber ignores them. Palpatine's red blade ignites as he leaps forward, faster than Anakin expected. The clash of their sabers sends echoes through the chamber. As he does, he secretly sends a message down to Commander Fox, telling them that the heroes have betrayed them. As the clones ready their weapons, chaos erupts as Ahsoka, Plo Koon, and Eth Koth raise their lightsabers and deflect their attacks. Behind them, the heroes ready themselves. Daron flies up and begins firing his blaster, channeling bursts of electricity that scatter groups of clones. Sugi, Embo, and Separis all leap over the Jedi, launching themselves at the clone troopers, with the heroes close behind. Their senses are heightened from years of training, able to hear and see everything around them, ensuring that no one can get the jump on them. As they clash with the clones, they are tossed aside or pummeled to the ground. Sugi uses her vibro axes to deflect blaster fire. The blades move faster than the clones can follow, knocking them aside. Meanwhile, Embo somersaults across the battlefield, his shield doubling as a deadly weapon as he hurls it around, letting it bounce against walls and knock clones over. Behind them, the heroes fight with the same savagery, with small groups even able to hold their own against the Jedi. Serapis, piloting his exosuit, rains down firepower from above, his cannons tearing through barricades. Eth Koth and Plo Koon fight side by side, their mastery of the Force allowing them to outmaneuver even the most skilled Jedi commanders among Palpatine's defenders. Ahsoka, dual lightsaber spinning, leads the main force, rushing up to confront Commander Fox. Daron moves like a shadow beside her, his brutal efficiency cutting down enemies before they can react, and unleashing torrents of lightning that short out electronics and send soldiers scattering. Seeing their command post being overrun, Commander Fox issues an order to retreat with Ahsoka not far behind. Meanwhile, Anakin faces off against Palpatine. The Sith Lord laughs as he rushes forward, his lightsaber lashing out with near superhuman speed. Anakin can hardly keep up with the attacks, watching them rise and fall from all angles. But Anakin manages to hold his own, using the same training he started the Hero Order with. Anakin takes a few breaths to channel his energy until he hears the lightning hum above him. Suddenly, his own weapon comes up and blocks the attack. He smiles and shoves forward, swinging his lightsaber in a few brutal arcs, putting Palpatine on the defensive. He whirls and swipes low, but the Sith Lord bats it aside and counters with attacks fueled by the dark side. His dark energy clings onto Palpatine as he closes in, leaping over Anakin's attacks and slashing at his side. He nearly takes Anakin's ear off and leaves a cut across his face. Snarling, Anakin rushes forward, but Palpatine is ready, meeting him blow for blow. Palpatine spins his red blade, slicing through a desk, sending debris flying. He uses the Force to hurl objects at Anakin, ripping computers off the ground to hurl at him. Soon the room becomes a whirlwind of destruction, illuminated by their lightsabers. Anakin stumbles back and forth, tossed aside by the furniture, giving Palpatine the opening he needs. With a snarl, he rushes forward and stabs at him. But while Anakin is distracted, his hearing allows him to know where the strike comes from. He suddenly whirls and lets Palpatine's lightsaber embed itself in the desk. As he tries to pull it out, Anakin smiles and slashes the lightsaber across his torso. The Chancellor's eyes widen as he drops to the ground. Once he is taken care of, the heroes hurry to look through his private documents and communications, finding correspondences with Dooku that confirm his affiliation with him. The heroes then find themselves pardoned for any crimes. With this development, a thorough investigation is conducted by the Jedi who look into the Senate's handling of the war, while the Peace faction now pushes for peace talks. The heroes are invited to take part in these investigations, but they refuse, not wanting to compromise their neutrality by being bogged down in politics. Instead, they return to their holdings in the Outer Rim. While they promise to let Maul rule Mandalore, they begin to undermine his criminal empire to limit the damage he can do. That's our theory. The Star Wars universe is a galaxy filled with exciting stories and possibilities, and we love exploring them. If you want to accompany us on this journey to a galaxy far, far away, then please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.